Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 o'clock and we'll convene the legislative committee meeting for today. Looks like we've got a rather short attendance here, so somebody want to do a roll call? Or do you want to wait a couple of minutes for a couple of stragglers to be admitted?
Michelle said he was going to be here too, so we would have a quorum. Might want to wait a couple minutes for him.
Okay. How does that read AI meeting notes thing work? Does that work pretty well?
I don't know who that belongs to. It's been popping up in several of our meetings. So is anybody here bringing that read AI meeting notes? Because every time I've called for somebody to claim it, nobody claims it. And we're not getting the notes here, so I don't think it's something associated with SBCC. So if anybody needs this in here, I'll leave it in here, but I'll be removing it if nobody's going to claim that bot.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, I'm seeing no hands coming up to claim the AI notes taker. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the bot from the meeting, and we will move on from there.
Okay, are we ready for roll?
It looks as though we are.
Okay, Tom Handy.
Here.
Damon Doyle said he was going to be out of state and would not be able to make it. Todd Bayrether.
Here.
Jay Arnold.
Here.
Roger Haringa said he was on vacation, would not be able to make it. Shell Anderson.
Present.
Matthew Hepner. And Alex Ramont declined the meeting, but we do have a quorum.
Very good. Item number 2 is to review and approve the agenda. I will take a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to review and approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting.
This is Todd. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next thing on the agenda is public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anybody that would like to make such public comment? Now is your chance. Do so by signifying or letting us know by raising your hand, I guess. I see no hands raised, so we'll move on. Item number 5, letter to Representative Doer regarding the WUI code.
All righty. So on this one, just some background information on this. On June 10, there was a local government committee meeting where Todd and I were in attendance. Todd was there in person. I attended online, and Todd did the majority of the talking during that meeting. But then we followed up, and as a outcome of that meeting, Representative Dewar asked for a message from the council to suggest what we would like in the RCW. The main point of contention there was some movement in legislation in the 2024 session that redefined how the DNR was going to do some mapping, and DNR is still working on that mapping. And then SBCC supported that movement to get better mapping in place. But one thing that the SBCC wanted to kind of show some opposition for is the inclusion of technical requirements within the word of law, so in the RCW. And Representative Dewar asked for a note saying, indicating what we would suggest for that particular RCW section. So as part of that, I just wanted to open up for discussion here today, how we wanted to view what is in RCW 19.27.560 and look at the technical requirements that are contained therein and potentially make a recommendation on what we would like to see within that body of law language. And so getting to that one, let me get the particular section open here real quick, and then I'll share my screen. All right, so there's a lot going on here within this body of code. Let me update the screen share. All right, so we should be seeing RCW language for 1927.560. In subsection 1 here is pretty much the charging language of this section, and then everything below this down to section 2 here is kind of technical requirements. Some of this language is verbatim out of the WUI code, and some of it is not. But the viewpoint of the council on this is that the inclusion of these requirements kind of hamstrings the council's authority to make improvements and amendments to this code in the future. So as I see it, we are kind of stuck with a stagnated code without legislative action. And so this may work, it may not work, but if there's any modifications that the council saw fit to make with the inclusion of the public and subject matter experts, we would have to wait till legislative session to do it. We wouldn't be able to do it as part of our normal rulemaking process. And it's the only code that we have that has the specific technical requirements contained in RCW here. Todd, you spoke a lot on this one, and we're kind of involved in the process before I stepped up to the managing director position. Did I accurately kind of encapsulate what the concern is with this particular RCW?
It did, and I was just looking back on my notes, and I can probably share out my notes I used for the testimony. And if you remember, there was a few of us, including Micah at the time, that offered some suggestions. Again, just in summary, what we testified on and took vote on as the full council was that we obviously supported the mapping exercise, and that's not what's being discussed here. So that was, full support. The part was going back and reminding, the new legislators or the legislature that, when 6109 from a few years ago went in that put this section in, that's where a lot of this was hard written into statute. And then 6120, didn't necessarily add too much. It just didn't edit any of that other stuff out, clean it up at all. So,
Yeah.
I think Micah did provide a striker that if we had to pull up, that does a good job of outlining all those sections in this RCW. where those are. And again, it was raising the question about legislature. Do you want this in policymaking or in rulemaking now that we're kind of moving on, right? What I can't do for you, and I don't remember, is a couple of new limitations in 6120. I think there were a few things that prevented the council from adopting certain parts of the WUI, but allowed local jurisdictions to amend. Does that sound accurate to everyone?
I think that does.
And I'm not a WUI expert. I'm just doing the best I can to
So
remember.
looking at the original bill that passed in 2018, one of the things that's included in here is like reference to specific chapters. So the subsection I right here includes section 504.2 for roof coverings. In the cleanup in 6120 in the 2024 session, sorry, the references to specific sections was removed. Let me get to where that's at. That's down here. So you'll notice the strikeout in here. And so the section 3 of 6120 is the one section that deals with section 1927.560. The other ones point to other sections where WUI code is mentioned in our RCW and don't really contain any technical requirements. And when it comes to what the local jurisdictions may do, that is all additive language down here in the bottom. So of section 3, sorry. So counties may complete their own wildfire hazard assessment and create their own risk maps. There's some development of the process within DNR to complete a methodology for counties and to give assistance to them or counties and cities to complete that work as they see fit. And that kind of, you hear a lot of local control being a kind of tenement of what the legislature is wanting to maintain. So this allows for the local jurisdictions to complete their own maps and risk assessments, and then kind of apply the WUI code as they see fit. The big issue that I saw working with the WUI code last year and getting questions from folks is, defensible space was a big point of contention there. And in the drafting of what we have in WAC for the WUI code, there was essentially 2 routes to navigate the WUI code and apply specific provisions. So the bill here allows for local jurisdictions to adopt the model code as a whole, or it allows for specific sections for the State Building Code Council to adopt, but with the language being included in this RCW, we're, as I understand it, not allowed to modify that or the WAC to be in contention with these sections. And as I see it, that's where probably the bulk of our contention lies, is we can't update with new technologies, new methodologies, and things like that moving forward. So, Todd, you mentioned that Micah had provided a section that might show where we would be looking to strike language from RCW.
Well, again, I'll be careful. The testimony I gave for the council and Micah's contribution was meant to be objective and technical. So I think the council obviously could take a position on this and raise it to the legislature, but really it was more of pointing out to the legislature where in statute things are hard writing over the rulemaking process or over the model code. And then I think the second part that was, in my opinion, misinterpreted was this discussion of local control. There was nothing in my memory of our council where there was a position on against local control. So I think just clarifying that would be helpful, so that we make sure we bring cities and counties into into our process also. I think there are advantages to some of the stakeholders that they want to protect in here. And obviously that was in the tone of some of the legislation also. So some of it's very intentional, but I think we were having more of a procedural discussion at the council level.
Gotcha. And for those who might be interested, on that June 10th meeting, the WUI code topic comes up at the minute marker 52. DNR kind of introduces their mapping processes, and they go through the hour mark. And then the SBCC has a section in there, it's 14 minutes long, from the 60-minute mark to the 1 hour, 14-minute mark, in case we wanted to go see what was kind of discussed there. So the ask is, what is the fix? And that's what's driving the letter to Representative Doer on that one. As I see it, the fix that kind of aligns with what the council's looking is to remove the reference to specific sections and specific requirements here. Looking at RCW as it's written here on the websites, I would propose the removal of subsection A all the way down to, or no, the subsections of subsection 1. So everything below 1 down to this section here. These are all the specific technical requirements that they have here. And one of the issues that I see is it talks about class 1 ignition resistance construction. In the WUI code, there's 3 classes of ignition resistant construction. And depending on the fire hazard severity or the fire risk severity in a particular building site, you may use different ignition resistant construction classifications to apply to a specific building. And so if we just adopt the class 1 ignition resistant construction requirements, it kind of hamstrings that process to have a little bit more flexibility for contractors and homeowners and folks who are doing the development. And the only section of the WUI code that I feel doesn't really belong, or from the model WUI code, is sections in chapter 4, which address the roads and access to specific sites, and also the water supplies in specific sites. I do have some notes on that one. Let me pull it up. I've got a little draft letter here prepared, but I just got it done here today, so I didn't get it posted to the site. Let me get in here. So the roadway access is I guess the WUI code is derived from the fire code, and as part of that, the RCW 1927.060 subsection 5 says that no portion of the Uniform Fire Code shall apply to the standards for roads. Let me get in there. 1927.060. Number 5. So this is the section I'm referencing. No provision of the Uniform Fire Code concerning roadways shall be part of the state building code, provided that this subsection shall not limit the authority of a county or city to adopt those access standards. It is my understanding that all the local jurisdictions have their own fire apparatus access standards adopted by local ordinance. And as such, I think that the inclusion of Chapter 4 provisions for access are not appropriate in light of this particular section. And looking at the water supply sections of our code, we're looking at, there's a water supply or a water system coordination act. It's RCW 70A.100. And I should have that open up here still. Yes. Within there, this is where the purposes, or where the water system coordination is kind of contained. It also references back to Title 246 WAC, which also has a subsection for fire flow in here. This is a 293.640, or sorry, 246-293. There we go, 640. And we have a whole section in here for fire flow. So this section states that fire flow within local jurisdictions shall be in accordance with the International Fire Code. 640 here. If you have local standards adopted under the WAC 248-57-900, you have those, and if you don't have local standards, there's a table here for what those minimum standards should be. So in light of these two sections of RCW and policy, I believe that the majority of the contents of Chapter 4 should not be adopted by the State Building Code Council. The WAC for the WUI code is also kind of reflective of that as it stands right now. 5155 and section 400. You'll notice there's a lot of sections that are just not adopted. So that was already kind of included in the adoption of what we have going on for the WUI code. And the ask from Representative Dewar to kind of show what a fix would be in the RCW. I think instead of listing chapters that should be included in the adoption, should actually reference the chapter that we shouldn't adopt. And as I see it, the rest of the chapters should be included and include the appendices for use, because some of the fire hazard severity forms that are not necessarily for local adoption are included in the appendices of the book. There's fuel classification or vegetation classification tables in the back of that book in the appendices that are needed to be used in coordination with some of these other sections that are also in appendices. So as I see it, the only chapter that shouldn't be included in the WUI code is Chapter 4, because that is covered by other portions of RCW and WAC. And I guess at this point, I will bring up the draft letter I have for Dewar, and we can chat on that one a little bit. Are there any questions or comments on what I've said? Any dissension there, Jay?
Yeah, as we look at the details here, I'm just wondering on principle, since this is an issue that's going to come up on other topics as well, if we want to tie this more to our existing process, and instead of offering specific language saying we want to include this chapter of the model code and not include this chapter of the model code, we think about some language that would apply for any topic, to say we would like to go through a process of determining which parts of the model code to adopt, which parts not to adopt, and which part to adopt with exceptions, and not tie it back into our process versus recommending some language today that would say, we recommend that we adopt this code, don't adopt this code, because that's still legislative adoption of code that we'd like to get away from.
Right. So in other sections of the RCW, we got 031. Let me minimize this here and pull up the other web browser. 16. Got, oops, sorry, I went too far. 031. So in here, with the WUI code, here we go. I guess there's other modifications that if we are trying to not say specific sections of a code, we would potentially need to ask them to remove section 560 and the reference to it from some other sections. So in 031 here, and there's one other one that is escaping me off the top of my head. It says, you know, we're allowed to do things as long as what we do are in accordance with 1927.560. And so in this particular section, it allows us to adopt the WUI code specifically referenced in 560 number 1, or we could just adopt the Model International Wildland Urban Interface Code referenced in 560 number 2. And so I think there's an issue in this section if we're not wanting to point to specific sections of code.
Got it. And do you think, Dustin, that this impacts the idea of a bill only having, makes the bill too complicated or touching too much RCW that to do it the right way?
No, I don't. I think that if we were looking to introduce a bill, which would be more kind of for what I had planned on agenda item number 7. But if we wanted to introduce a bill, I think that to do it the right way and touch all the sections that are affected by the one problem that we're having, and then to also maybe address future concerns of technical aspects being written into law, that a bill introduced to affect these sections and maybe include another section that, you know, I'm not sure how to. We don't get to direct the legislature. They get to direct us. But if there's something we could write into law that's, you know, says, you know, this is the process, you know, we adopt by reference and update every 3 years, and, you know, technical provisions are contained in WAC and policy, not necessarily here in the law.
You know, I've been kind of thinking about this and how it might relate to a more global type of a issue here. And it seems to me, you know, as all of this was kind of coming into being, that it was a reaction to a situation that many claimed was kind of overreaching by the SBCC in some of the conditions that we put forward, you know, that didn't make sense in a lot of the local areas. And they wanted to have more control over what was going on in their areas. And so this kind of took all of that back and put it into local people's hands. I can see the same argument being made on energy code, you know, in Eastern Washington, you know, and heat pumps, and Western Washington and heat pumps, you know, because there's, you know, geography and all of that, or the climate has different. I guess what I'm trying to get out of my mouth here is that maybe it's not just this code that we're going to end up facing this kind of thing with. Not that we need to figure out how to clean this little piece up, but there might be a bigger problem that we need to kind of wrap our arms around, you know. Maybe some of these code provisions and these amendments are going a little too far, and they're not allowing the local areas to have enough input. You know, granted, on this case, the maps were kind of the thing that triggered it, because they were pretty inadequate for the rules that were made around them. But I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there for conversation's sake.
Well, maybe adoption of just the model code on the state with the ability of the local jurisdictions to amend is maybe the most appropriate. We did receive lots of comment that, you know, this doesn't work in our area. How are we supposed to make this work? And it was a real task to try to help the local jurisdictions apply what was in force in the as a result of the 2018 legislation and what came out in the 2021 code before the 24 legislation came about. So, I think that just adoption of the model code poses some problems, but it might ease some of more problems than necessarily create new ones
And
potentially.
it's a double-edged sword in a way too, because some of the smaller jurisdictions don't have the personnel to make all of the interpretations necessary either. And so, they'll be forced to hire consultants and do that, so I don't know. It's a big deal.
It's like,
Sorry.
Chandler, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Tom and Jay that there are bigger issues when I look at the EV charging bill that was written. It contained some things that were a little too specific and didn't allow the Building Code Council to write a more sensible code. And so I agree there's a general problem with having legislature write code sections into law, and obviously we can't update them without legislative. We can't even ask anybody what the legislative intent was, because there's a lot of legislators out there that have differing opinions on it, and we've tried in the past and failed. I think for this one, making a general statement in the letter about, writing code into specific sections being, not flexible enough. I generally agree that the legislature should write intent. What do they want to have happen? And let us figure out in code language how to have that happen. I agree that the WUI code and the mapping were not done with enough time to react to each other, and the mapping was very different than I think how everybody expected it, at least on the Building Code Council side, to be there, and that made it a really onerous code that had unfortunate. I'll also say that the WUI code by the ICC is not a perfectly written code, not even close, and so adopting it wholesale is not going to solve our problems either. At least the last version we looked at, there was some challenges in how people understand what is actually required, when defensible space is required. The options were not clear, and some things could easily be interpreted as being required and not required by different, very intelligent, code savvy people. So I think we need, if we're going to adopt the WUI code in Washington, we need to look at it at the Building Code Council level and figure out, from charging language to scope to implementation, how it actually would work in Washington, because it is not a perfect model code. In general, I agree that striking those sections that you outlined, Dustin, would be a good start. And I think if we turned that sections you struck out into intent language from the legislature, that would be helpful. What do they really want to get out of this? It's not, it doesn't make a lot of sense what is in the bill, because what does it apply to? It's really hard to tell what it actually applies. Does every building need class 1 ignition resistant construction, or does some subset need class 1 construction? So I would say if we were to propose a bill in lieu of this, we would write intent for the things that the legislator has specifically included here, instead of those specific requirements. We would help them find language that describes an intent rather than a specific code language. I think I've done enough talking.
Patrick?
Yes, thank you for the record. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. I just want to provide input that we were supportive of SB 6120 because we heard from our members and local jurisdictions that they had difficulties in applying the state's current WUI at the time to their local situations. So we think it's important that the process retains input from those local jurisdictions to make sure that the WUI code that's applying to them makes sense and is actionable for their district and situation.
Thank you, Patrick. Todd?
Yeah, thank you. So I think there is a lot of synergy between our parallel efforts here. Tom, I agree with you, like what's happening in the energy code and how we approach that as a state. I think it's between obviously preemption that is allowed, that is enabled by the power of the legislature, and then the authority of the rulemaking, and then back to the power that is granted to the local jurisdictions, right? And in that process, we're the technical part of it. We're supposed to offer something to the state that brings the subject matter experts in and informs, especially at that local level, how they can make good decisions and adopt their ordinances and so forth. And so I think the kind of frustrating part is when we're going through this process, a lot of 6120 was about the maps. Everyone was on board, as far as I know, with let's go get better maps, right? And let's not only do better maps at the state level with DNR, let's now put a structure in place that helps local jurisdictions create better maps and bring their knowledge and resolution. And Spokane's a good example in my understanding. They have the technical knowledge and they're already doing this, and they're going to have, they understand their local, geography and topology and so forth, topography and so forth. Yet in that, if we throw everything to the city, I still see some very uninformed discussions happening in between planning. We have very talented, this is not a comment on Spokane, I'm just saying the community discussions between very robust planning processes going into our comprehensive plan, looking at then how we sync that with the life safety code here. And there's a easy disconnect between there, and we're not doing a good job. We have a moratorium in an area that's in a WUI area, and this often is used as ammunition, and it's not actually helping us figure out how we provide the infrastructure and so forth. So where I'm going with this is, my hope is whatever the council does is that whether it's we provide rulemaking public forum with subject matter experts and then offer that to local jurisdictions, and maybe it's an appendices or so forth that are by adoption. And I think there is a good discussion about what should be statewide and what should be by local adoption, because the interesting part, just like what we're going to enter into on the single exit stairway, is that if there are 12 things that we should be considering on any given site, maybe only 5 of them are in the building code, 3 of them are, service-based for fire or whatever, and the other ones are zoning. I think this is very similar. So I think what we were trying to point out as a council to the legislature was some of these sections here that are hard written in really need a little more flexibility. Doesn't mean they don't need technical input, but the technical input should be in the rulemaking process in sync with the local jurisdictions. So I'll stop there because I'm just curious what everybody's response to that is. But I was surprised to get pushback in trying to have that kind of conversation, that it was for or against local control, because use Spokane as an example where we have the technical knowledge. I don't think that exists everywhere in these areas, but they're looking for more of the technical help on. And by hamstringing us, by not being able to say we can have a discussion about defensible space at the state level for potential adoption at the local level, is really kind of missing the opportunity, I think. Thank you.
Well, in light of the discussion we've had here, I would definitely make some pivots in what I have drafted as a memo to Representative Dewar. We're talking about, I guess, bigger issues that aren't necessarily solely related to the WUI code. And I see the merit in the conversation had on that larger topic. I guess, however, the Representative Dewar asked for a proposed fix for what we have in relation to the WUI code. And I guess maybe the statement would be, I liked what Chell had, which is write the intent of the legislature, not necessarily the specific language there. Todd?
Well, yeah, and just as on that example, I don't think anything's really broken in here. I just don't think it's really helpful to say specifically in statute what that hardened material should be. I think that should be something that we as a state are having to continuously improving that through rulemaking, and working with local jurisdictions that understand their area best. So maybe, certain materials are more appropriate in Spokane than they are in Kirkland, that's okay. But right now it's hard written.
Yeah. So, I mean, would we maybe make a proposition that the following parts of, so it's chapter 5 now, who knows where it might be in several code cycles if it's going to remain chapter 5. In my experience with the WUI code, it seems like it's been a pretty static code over the years, and the different editions that have been published. Would it be maybe more appropriate to include the aspects of ignition resistant construction, but not necessarily some of the specific language there? I mean, I guess what I'm looking for to respond to Representative Dewar is I guess maybe a proposal for language cleanup within 560.031, and there's the one other RCW that references back to 560. I guess, should we take this back to the council as a whole to talk about what the proposed fixes to this section might be, and then to also have a further discussion about what if we were to potentially introduce a bill that kind of painted that, the technical aspects need to be in the rulemaking, policy-making portions of our regulations, and not here where it's kind of locked in place until someone decides in the legislature that they want to make the modification. Chell?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And I think if you got Representative Dewar or anybody else to tell you what does 1 sub A through B, the part you struck out mean, and they told you in 3 sentences what it meant, I bet you'd be 80% of the way there to having what the bill should say.
Okay. As far as drafting a response to her, would it be best for this group to not make any hard decisions right this second, but maybe come back with a draft letter to the group and maybe to the council? I guess one of the issues is if there's going to be any fixes happening in the 2025 session, we're already well behind the ball on getting any legislation going for this coming session. So I'm not sure what the intent of asking for the fix from us was on Representative Dewar's part, but I guess took the verbatim meaning to say, this is a proposed fix kind of supported by the council. Jay?
2 things. I think while Representative Dewar is really plugged into these issues. What we write is also an opportunity to educate other legislators. And so when we talk about, I like Chel's idea of legislative intent, but when we talk about things, it's an opportunity to also say, here are some options, like Todd and Tom had mentioned, to be able to say, what's your legislative intent? Is it looking at these model codes? Is it producing a model code or an appendix that cities and counties could adopt if they choose? Is it producing a model code that cities and counties could amend if they choose? And try to get them a menu of things to specify within legislative intent. And having things that would work within our process. So to this specific letter, what I think is that what Representative Jor is looking for is, one, the specific changes to the RCW that exist, and Dustin, it looks like you've identified those in 560 and 031 that we should say. And then the letter should also ask for legislative intent, specifying some categories of questions we'd like answered that would get to some of the things I mentioned about model code and stuff. That's what I'd recommend. And it'd be great if we could have a draft for the council meeting coming up later this month.
Okay.
I kind of like the way this is coming together here, you know. I mean, I like the idea of replacing the language with intent a lot, you know, because that's kind of the way it ought to be, I believe, you know. And then having us present appendices or what, you know, from the subject matter experts, that local jurisdictions can adopt this if it works for that area, or that if it works for that area, you know, things that are kind of professionally developed, that they can go, oh yeah, no, that's perfect for us. Okay, that one's we'll adopt that. You know, I mean, I think that would provide a great service to a lot of the jurisdictions. And so if we could come up with something like that, that would be ideal in my mind.
Yeah, and I think as many of us know on here, this is a really long process. And what I would hate to see is that we miss a 3-year cycle where we can at least inform and put some of those rulemaking concepts down, even if we're not allowed to adopt them at this point. You know, as many cities and counties are finished on the west side are finishing up their comprehensive plans right now. Some of the east side are you know, in the next year or two. It's like those all need to be integrated. And I think that if there's legislative intent, say, hey, do that integration, and then we on the technical side can come and say, yes, you have to consider level of service, you have to consider defensible space, you have to consider materials and so forth. We're not telling you you know, specifically that this is the answer without local participation, but you know, there's a broader integration here that has to happen. So right now it's just basically saying, don't even try, don't even bother. Let's go through the WUI tag next year and don't even mess with these things because it's just there. So, and I also, Shell made a point. I don't think the model code in the WUI is anywhere near perfect. So I want to bring that back to Washingtonians. I'm not proposing writing a whole new code, but you know, we're talking about getting down to the local level. I think we need that in Washington. We're so diverse in terms of our climates and needs. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a clarification from Jay on the legislative intent. Typically, legislative intent refers to like the footnotes that end up in the RCW, and they're typically non-binding, although they can provide some idea of like what the legislature intended. Are you referring to the legislative intent in that sense, or a change in the statutory directive for what the council should produce WUI code wise?
Yeah, great question, Patrick. I'm looking for, I'm being imprecise in saying, I think legislative intent in this discussion, it's more about how they provide direction to the SBCC and understanding a little more of those goals and objectives and any requirements around that. Not legislative intent as is across every single bill.
Thank you. I would just recommend in your letter back to the representative then to clarify that that's what you mean, because they might get confused if you say legislative intent and think of a non-binding sort of footnote instead of actually changing the directive.
Good point.
Okay. So would it help move this topic along if we viewed what I had initially drafted? I think that I've captured a lot of this in the first couple paragraphs, and maybe there's some pivots needed in subsequent paragraphs. Let me get this bigger for everybody. So, dear Representative Dewar, the State Building Code Council plays an important role in the state of Washington's design and construction industry. They provide consistent standards for construction to promote health, safety, and welfare of Washingtonians. Building codes are updated every 3 years to incorporate new studies, material innovations, and other important advancements. Updating these codes requires great diligence to ensure they are clear, concise, feasible, enforceable, and cost-conscious. Then I go on to give some history. The ESSB 6109 passed during the 2018 legislative session, added specific technical requirements for the International Wildland Urban Interface Code in RCW 19.27.560. In the 2024 legislative session, ESB 6120 passed and modified the same section in an attempt to address wildfire risk mapping. The updated risk mapping is fully supported by the council. The council has been tasked with adoption and amendment of the codes enumerated in RCW 19.27.031, which includes the WUI code. By including technical provisions within the word of law, the amendment powers of the council are restricted. This leads to stagnant provisions that may not age well for use by Washingtonians.
Can I
Pause there.
suggest something? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Todd, you raised your hand first. I just wanted to pause there and have a comment.
Go ahead, Chell.
I'm fine.
Yeah, so I guess I think the way it's written right now, it could be just like we have sour grapes against, the legislature tying our hands. But I think we need to enumerate more than just stagnant provisions that may not age well, but as model codes are updated, this would restrict our ability to update the code. And I think if we have 2 or 3 sentences right there describing the challenges of having the RCW have code language in it, that would get across what we're trying to say. I think more specific examples would be good.
Yeah, and Shell, another way said, I think tone is really important. But I also, dating back to 1974, that was what the testimony was, is that's when the legislature, established the State Building Code Council. It's their prerogative how they want us to run, but RCW, what is it, 1927-31, that says the State Building Code Council shall amend, adopt, and implement. So one of our points on this is that we need that ability. If that's the process they want us to follow, the rulemaking process, we need the full ability to adopt, amend, and implement. And so I would kind of personally be opposed by even saying, tell us which sections we can and cannot adopt. That should be under the rulemaking authority.
Yeah, I think having a reference to what Todd just said is another thing to put in here, saying it goes against a law that you already passed a while ago.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets political, and it can, again, that can be political. That's their prerogative. But that's what happened last year. In policymaking, there was debate about include that section or not that section. It wasn't technical. It was just political.
And the council has more time to kind of quote unquote get it right. We've got more technical experts and more time than just a legislative session to come up with the language.
Yeah, and we know that we don't really have the authority to go lobby the legislature, so we're at a disadvantage on the technical side to make an argument,
Gotcha.
and we shouldn't be in the
Would it-
political, quite frankly, so.
Would it be in the interest of getting this ready for the October meeting? Maybe give me a little bit more time to draft a letter that kind of encapsulates this a little bit more and hold one more ledge committee meeting before the council meeting to address this letter?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. I guess then I would I guess ask for a motion to direct staff to draft the letter kind of as discussed here today and bring back to another legislative committee meeting prior to the October meeting for an official recommendation of the letter to the council by this group.
So moved.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded to direct staff to provide a draft of the letter to bring before council for consideration.
And just to clarify, that means that this wouldn't go to represent or to legislature without a full council vote.
No, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I would like to just discuss when we want to have that meeting. The council meeting is scheduled for the 18th, and now that I've tried to do something that requires me to access the network, my computer's frozen up a little bit. So on the 18th, let's see, just looking at a quick calendar here. I guess by Wednesday next week. Does that work for this group to potentially hold another legislative committee meeting?
At the same time, it works for me.
Okay. Then I would just like to add that to the motion as well.
Like that we meet specifically next Wednesday.
Yeah, just to add call another meeting Wednesday 1 to 3.
Okay. I think it doesn't need to be in the motion. I think staff can just
Call the meeting.
have that meeting. I wouldn't want to tie the hands of staff by, if staff wants to change the meeting by some time by having it part of a motion.
I gotcha.
So
then how about just a meeting prior to the October 18th
Oh.
council meeting?
that sounds good. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so just as a heads up, we'll be looking to have it by Friday next week, so that we can post it online for the meeting appropriately. All right.
And then
So
you mean have it done, have it after our meeting and
yeah, so I need to
Final
post
draft
it
by
by Friday next week. And so if we had the meeting on Friday, I'm intending to do it on Wednesday next week, same time, barring any difficulties. Which yeah, next week I'll be okay. The following week there's some issues for me, but anyway, we're not trying to post it you know, after the 14th. So by the 11th, I need to get this one posted for the council meeting.
I'm busy until 1:30 next Wednesday.
Does it
Yes.
work for the group to go at 2?
I'm good with that.
Works.
Okay.
Looks like we got it quorum.
Okay, cool. On that one then, I will stop the share for a moment, and the agenda, we have our ad hoc tag recommendations. This was on the agenda for the council meeting last month, but we didn't get to it. And I just heard some comments that we might want to go over this one a little bit more as a recommendation to the council to better to narrow down the representatives on this particular tag to be more specific folks. And why is this not popping up? Here. Okay. I'm having to pivot a little bit here. I moved a folder and it doesn't have the contents I needed there. So I'm gonna pull up the PDF that we used at the council meeting last week or last month, sorry. And we'll run off of that. And if I need to make changes, I'll get it taken care of. Okay. Updating my share to be that. Alrighty, so I did go back and look at the minutes from our previous meeting. There's not much contained in the minutes themselves that indicate exactly what seats we wanted on here. And I haven't had an opportunity to get back into the meeting to listen to it to see if there's anything specific mentioned in the meeting. So as part of the plan here for today, I just wanted to go over the seats that we have here, and if there's anything specific that we want to narrow down, for example, the home builder slash affordable housing developer. I feel there was a comment made on that particular seat. If we want to narrow any of these or make changes or add additional alternate seat suggestions for the council consideration, I would, I guess, just at this point, kind of open it to the group here for discussion. Todd.
Yeah, I can start because I kind of raised the question at the council meeting. So, technical advisory groups, in my opinion, should be technical. That there should be subject matter experts. We have our appointed positions usually, and now it's hard written into statute that some of those positions have to be by actual trade associations. So, in my opinion, I'm not interested in those votes. We're interested in the technical development here. And so the example I give, especially on an ad hoc means we're digging really deep into subject matter experts that we probably don't have on the council. And then in this case, we've set it up so that it kicks back to the two relevant tags, the building and the fire. And that's not unlike what we did at the tsunami tag. The tsunami goes into chapter 16 in the IBC, but we created a small technical advisory group where we brought in our statewide experts, and it worked really well to develop the technical. So in that context, I would argue that certain positions like the architect and the engineer, structural engineer, should be licensed, credentialed, members. And then obviously the fire, I'll defer to all that, but I would assume that would be the same. And then the 4 and 5, those are kind of our general categories we always use for those positions. I think I would be very specific that there needs to be someone who is actually would develop these to inform it. And maybe that's a capital A affordable, meaning they understand the public-private, funding mechanisms, the capital stack. I think that's more important than saying it has to be affordable, like 0.6, AMI or whatever it's going to be. And then the same on 5. Who's going to build these things? So however we can craft that, it doesn't have to be the actual categories. And so my question then is, when I hear home builder, is that really who's going to be doing infill lots like this? And maybe there's an argument for it. I don't know. So I'll defer.
Bill, you put your hand down.
Yeah, since home builder was just mentioned, I figured Patrick might be better going next.
Okay, Patrick.
But you read my mind. Yes, for the record, Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. Yeah, I talked with some folks in our org, and one of the recommendations that we have, first of all, we're appreciative that the council kicked this back to the committee and the committee's taking a look at this again. One recommendation that we have is instead of putting home builder and affordable housing developer in the same category, to have split categories. And I agree with, what Todd said of specifying home builder to be more specific to the types of buildings that are going to be impacted by this. And there's kinds of two categories that came to mind for us. One is townhomes, which can fall under the category for what's happening here. And then the other is multi-unit apartment buildings up to 6 stories. So we think it might be helpful to have representatives from or builders of each type of those categories. And then and then have a specific category for a subsidized or affordable housing developer, because they'll understand that part of the equation. And then I saw that a realtor is mentioned as an alternative seat suggestion, and you can consider that. We think that they would have really great perspective on sort of the business costs and the business costs and the cost side of that equation of what's going on. And then also, if you want to have other options to consider, you can consider suppliers, because they'll have an idea on materials and the supply chains involved with this, and or subcontractors who can have a little different perspective than the main builders themselves.
One quick thing I'll just talk about is there's nothing in our WAC that requires us to limit this to 15 members, so we can go more than that, we can go less than that. It's only drafted at 15 as a kind of comparison to the other tags, but for example, the energy code tag is a little bit larger than the rest of our tags, and so I'll just bring that up. Chell?
Thanks. Yeah, I think splitting a home builder from affordable housing developer would be good. I was also thinking we have a general contractor developer. We don't have an owner. That's down in the alternative C suggestions. So I would add that building owner property manager in there. And then that would be the two positions I would add would be building owner property manager, and then the splitting of affordable housing and home builder. So then it'd be 17.
Okay, so split these and then add this one.
Yeah, and I think the reason is my understanding of the intent from the legislature is that this is supposed to drive down the cost of housing and get more housing built in the state. And since this is going through this tag and then 2 other tags and then committees and then the council, I think that some of the great ideas that are out there for doing this will only get watered down. They're not going to get amplified by the other tags and committees. So I want to make sure that this group comes up with, the best thing we can do as a council before it goes to the other tags and the committees and the council for making affordability more prevalent in Washington.
Todd?
Yeah, I worry though that if we're gonna go down this path of just building this up, we might as well just combine all the tags and do a big group, because we already have those representations on those tags. The whole point of having a specialized ad hoc tag is to really dig deep and geek out over the code and say, here are the things that we don't have in the other building code, in the residential code and the fire code already. So for example, when we talked about bringing the sixplexes, the mandate to get sixplexes, up to sixplexes into the residential code and bring that alongside the 6-story single exit, because we said there's some synergy between single exits there, but we already know how to make 24 story, 24 unit, 3-story garden walk-ups. So that information is already known. What we don't know is what it means when we start increasing the risk and going up to 6 stories, and how can we now bring that back together to have one, very succinct but technical solution. And then in that, we don't need to recreate the building code tag or the residential code tag. Is what we need a planner sitting at the table and talking about zoning code and design guidelines and development standards, things like that. Like, what are we seeing there to align with our life safety code? So I really question on some of this, like property manager, all that. Like, we already know that stuff. What we need to know is how we get somebody out of a building 125 feet or less and so forth, and write that code.
Yeah, and I concur with Todd on this, that the first set of folks on this particular tag need to be the ones in saying, how do we deal with the trade-offs with doing 6-story single exit buildings? And so I'm unclear on the added value of adding tag members, especially as Todd had mentioned, the building owner, property manager. I don't think we're looking at general. This is not the tag that is looking at general cost containment, affordability issues. It's talking about how do we enable this specific building form in an affordable way. Thanks.
Joe?
Yeah, I guess my concern in looking at this tag, or at least what I'll add to this, is that I see fire heavily represented, and fire is an acute issue that needs to be solved on any of these things. But I think the intent of the legislation is much broader than acute fire-related injuries and deaths. And there are other reasons why people are suffering in this state of other things other than fire. So what I don't want to see is fire overrepresented, so we don't get the ideas through this first committee on that address the broader goal that the legislature had of housing affordability and balancing the fire risk with the longer term, broader societal issues that the legislation is trying to address.
Patrick?
Yeah, well, I agree with what Michelle said, but then also it's going back to the property manager, the building owner. The legislation, the purpose is to balance the critical safety and the fire need with also making it affordable and reducing costs. So I think having lots of different perspectives on the cost throughout the life cycle of the building is helpful. And so you have architects and planners who are involved in the design aspect. You have the financial component, especially for subsidized housing. And then you have the actual building in terms of how do we take these plans and designs and then actually make that workable in real life. And then having property owners or building managers, they will have a perspective on what happens when you actually the building's occupied and you have things going on, and is it livable? Is there anything that's going to come up during that? So I think that they can provide a valuable perspective. And then also, I'm wondering if does the process require for the results of the ad hoc tag to go back to the other tags, or can the ad hoc tag just send the results back to the respective committees or the council?
I think that it's not required for them to go back to the tags, but in discussions that we've had, kind of the intent was to make a recommendation and then send that recommendation back to the tags, not as a requirement, but as a more of a courtesy, I guess, to that group. Todd?
Yeah, it might be a courtesy, but I might say that differently because I think it absolutely has to go back to the tags. I mean, you can't can't have an ad hoc overwrite the building code tag. You know, they have to adopt, they have to make the recommendation, in my opinion, to the committee. Now, I guess we could, as a council, decide that this tag kicks it up to the committee along with the other recommendations, but then somebody's got to reconcile anyway. So I think the intent that we put out there was it would go back. And then I would disagree respectfully that on the fire thing, Shell, this is a fire problem. The whole problem, the whole challenge of this one is to address the fire life safety, and that's why it's not going through and likely won't, even with the recent amendments for the second round at the ICC level, is that it's really opposed by the fire industry. So when we look at the proposal and we start digging into it that was submitted by WABO and other stakeholders, you'll see in there that it's very technical discussions about level of service. You know, where is the nearest hydrant? Are there two sides that are accessible by certain ladder trucks, so forth? You know, where do we start to increase the life safety from access from different vehicles, so forth? Vegetation, trees, things like that. It's stuff that I don't know, that we really need the fire experts in and the city representatives that are providing those services in the room. So I think that, again, just de-emphasizes the need for, yes, we all know it's affordable, but that mandate's already there. That we already been told that we have to make it, why we're doing this.
No?
Yeah, I guess when we were at the council level discussing this, what I heard was we'll just copy paste the IBC into the IRC and be done. I heard a council member say that, and I guess I'm just concerned that the larger non-acute issues are also very important in this initial effort towards the tag, because it'll go through other tags as well. That's one of the reasons why I suggested a couple additional tag members, just to get those perspectives as well.
Michelle, may I ask, are you concerned about the IRC portion of this not being well represented?
Well, I guess what I'm concerned about is it'll go through other tags. So this is where a lot of ideas will come and go and not be considered again. And as we, as this tag does its work, I don't want it to have such a focus on the acute problem that it doesn't focus on what I believe is the intent of the legislature, which is the wider scale affordability problem. And so I want to see, that's my hope, and I really don't know how to enact that, but I just want to make sure that we're not so focused on the acute immediate issue of fire safety that we lose sight of the affordability issue.
I would just comment that I think if we not that we'd probably get a lot of griping on it from the fire representation if we reduced that, but we are tasked with consulting with the fire industry for firefighter safety and all the above there. So I guess, Chell, would you have any suggestion to maybe pivot one or two of those to maybe address the concern that you have that we're maybe not over-representing the fire industry, because they are a very strong force within our group, and they can, sway the way things move if they are maybe represented as you're maybe indicating. Is there something we could do to still have maybe that fire kind of related representation, but maybe shift the perspective a little bit? Like maybe, I don't know,
I-
I'm
yeah,
thinking
my
residential sprinklers or something.
I think the 5 representatives, 6 through 10 on here are fine. That's one of the reasons why I was suggesting
Additional spaces.
that I agree to split home builder into home builder and affordable housing developer, and that add building owner or property manager. And that way we have 17 people. It's I think balanced in a different way. So that was my suggested
Okay,
uh,
Todd?
So on the question of home builder, Patrick, maybe you can help us here. My question is more, are home builders actually building these typologies? So if we're talking probably in the range of 6 plexes to, 6 unit with 4 per floor, 24 unit vertical, stacks, like, is that really a home builder? Is that the right category? To me, that's somebody that's more a multifamily developer.
That's a good point, and that's why I suggested, and I'll just say from the folks I've talked to, I've mainly focused on 3 stories or less because that's most of what our members build, and this goes up to 6 stories. So that's why I suggested having, you know, townhome builder and then an apartment building builder that can be up to 6 stories. So then you're getting the townhomes going to be a lot more residential, and then you get somebody who's used to building under the commercial for apartments. And I know that's adding a few tags in addition with having a specific affordable housing developer, but those are all 3 different building types that each have, they're all, and the experience that I've had in talking with builders is they know costs like the back of their hand in a way that you or I just cannot comprehend, even with hours of searching for information. And I think that the fire industry is very well represented. And and if you don't change the seats because the current home builder and affordable housing is in the same spot, it's possible that you could have an affordable housing representative, and then you would have a tag without any builders of the actual buildings that you're making policy for. So I think I can understand if you maybe want to keep it to 1 builder, but instead of saying home builder, I think it'd be better if you have it in 2 spots and then specify a residential, townhome builder and then a commercial apartment builder. So then you're getting perspectives on the 2 different types of buildings, having familiarity with the different types of codes, and they'll both have really great perspectives on the feasibility of building and what the costs are going to be. And I think that will pair very nicely with the information that the fire folks will bring in on safety and that kind of aspect.
Thank you, Patrick.
So I like the idea of splitting the home builder and affordable housing, or I guess to Patrick's comments, should maybe home builder and affordable housing developer be reworded to maybe include the townhome versus apartment contract or builder?
Well, just to be clear, I didn't ever understand this as being that townhomes are in this category. That fee simple townhomes. I thought we're dealing with trying to get 6 plex up to 6 plexes in the, because townhomes are already in the IRC. That's not the task and thing, right?
Yeah. I agree with that.
I recently talked with one official who's finding some cases where townhomes are trying to build up to 4 stories now, and they're falling into the R3 and the commercial code. So it's not, I don't think it's a large amount that's happening right now, but kind of middle housing, which townhomes and multiplexes are included in, is becoming a huge focus for housing policy. And I think by the time that the 2024 codes go into effect, there's going to be more of those instances happening. But instead of just home builder, you could specify, a multiplex builder. And I think affordable housing developer is fine, and there's some differences, I think, in terms of financing and costs and specifications with that. So I think it's helpful just to have those as separate categories.
I think the 4-story is an interesting case there, Patrick. You're right to bring that up. Well, then, in terms whatever the term for, affordable housing developer or someone who understands MFTE, someone who understands obviously tax credits and all the other different mechanisms, whatever captures that is my suggestion.
So I guess I had a question about a townhome that goes up to 4 stories. Are they trying to do one unit that goes 4 stories? Because the definition of the townhouse unit is a single family unit in a townhouse that extends from foundation to roof and has a yard or public way not less than 2 sides. So how does someone build a 4-story townhome?
I just recently heard from an official that they're finding some use case of that. I'm not as familiar with the specifics of it. I think it's a case where there's some in King County and stuff, they're getting into some gray areas of trying
Some
to
interpretation happening there?
Yeah, some interpretation. So
Okay.
like I said, I don't think it's a large case right now, but it's possible that it could become a larger issue when these codes are going into effect.
Okay.
Todd.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Todd, to address your question about, the affordable person, in Whitman County, we've got a community action center, and that the director of that program, has overseen building multi-unit affordable housing structures, that aren't necessarily governed by HUD, but, other coming from other, sources. So
Yeah, Spokane just hosted Housing Washington last week, and that's a really robust, group, and opened my eyes to all the players in that space doing infill and the whole spectrum from affordable to workforce.
they definitely know the needs.
One last thing, just on the typology piece here. I had recommended on down in the lower alternative seats there. We talked about a realtor today, but the appraisal piece of it is very important. We that caught us a little bit in Spokane until they cleaned it up at the both local and state level. That you're jumping once you go from 4 units, you're jumping above a residential appraiser. Now, hopefully, they've come around that industry and address this when we get up to 6 plexes. But
So do you think that as an alternate seat, appraiser should be broken out of that section?
I think it's okay to have number 15 be SME. I don't see the need to say general public in there because again, this is a technical. We need subject matter experts. To me, the general public part was taken care of by the legislature.
Okay.
Giving us the mandate.
So does this sound good to the group to kind of make the changes I've got made out here to the side? To specify an architect, not a home designer, to get the licensed individual rather than an unlicensed one.
Well, it's commercial building, right? So I mean, we're
Yes.
gonna need to.
And then split the home builder affordable housing developer into 2 slots, add a building owner property manager slot, and remove general public from the subject matter expert, and then come with these alternate slots for discussion at the council meeting. Patrick?
Well, so if you take the affordable housing and home builder, split that and take that from 1 slot to 2, and then if you add a property owner or a building manager, that's 3. And then I like what Todd said. I think realtors or an appraiser would have a really great perspective on that side of things and how the cost component and it can happen there. Then that brings it up to 18 seats.
Yep.
And that I think is, it's a little bit large, but I think they'll be able to come up with a really great recommendation, and then the committee can submit a very solid recommendation that the council can just vote on without making any changes. And I would specify the home builder to be a builder of the units affected, whatever the terminology you want to come up with, just because like you don't want a single family builder to be on this.
So would it please the group if we labeled the home builder as a multifamily home builder?
Sounds good.
All right, so with that. Do we like what we have going on here, and I can clean this up so it all looks nice and pretty for the council meeting, Chell?
Yeah, I guess I'd say insurance or appraiser. I don't know that realtor is as savvy about the insurance market as an insurance or appraiser would be.
And were you gonna pull the home designer off architect?
Oh, I was, yes.
And then remove 15. 15 is, are we going to remove 15?
I think instead of having general public on there, we just modified it to be subject matter expert to be a little bit of a wild card.
Maybe we don't need a wild card. Maybe we just have the 3 below SME and
Okay,
just, I don't know that we need a wild card.
well, we could add one of these other alternative seats in there. I'm not opposed to having a tag composed of 18, 17, 15, whatever we need to put in there.
$17 might be fine as an odd number.
Okay, I think that's a good idea actually, so we can work with that one. So do we like it like that?
Yeah, and then we've had this discussion before about the person with disability accessibility and whether we specifically want somebody who understands the code side of it. So are we ready if we're writing code? Let's leave that up to everyone.
Patrick?
I'll just provide my input, having listened to a couple of the past tag and committee meetings where they got into some discussion about the code language and how it works with accessibility. I think it really helps at this technical level to have somebody who's not necessarily focusing on disability advocacy, but who has expertise in disability accessibility law or code, because then they can help the other tag members know how to navigate that and make sure it aligns with federal law, state law, and it's workable.
So maybe just change that to accessibility expert, not necessarily a person with disability. I feel like that's where we're getting the folks who are advocating for that, not necessarily being able to paint how the accessibility interfaces and what it means for our code. So I guess should I change this one to accessibility expert? Or I guess it's in there already. It's just remove that part.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because there's some very specific things on the single exit, like if you're going to go to 6 stories, moving through that lower floor, which is could have a different occupancy, so forth.
Okay. Well, I guess if this is the list we like, could we have a motion to present? Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
I've read a lot of statutes over the past couple days, and I feel like there's somewhere governing SBC. Is there any that require you to have a person with disability on a tag, or is that at like the council level?
At the council level, we are required to have a council member representing that group. But anywhere else, there's no requirement to have a person representing that group on a tag committee.
I just want to make sure we're all good there.
So I guess could we entertain a motion to present the list as drafted? I'll clean it up to make the borders and everything appropriate and present the list as drafted to the council at the October meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Jay?
yeah, on the disability piece, I may be remembering this wrong, but I think a previous council discussion had me chairing this tag and Pete Reiki is the alternate. Is that accurate? And that may address Patrick's.
So here's the list of all of our, tags and kind of the chair makeup of all those. So energy code, we got Chell and Craig, then residential energy, Chell and Damon, building, Todd and Roger, IRC, Angela and Jay, the mechanical, ventilation, plumbing, Ben and Justin, the fire, Dan Young and Roger. And then the WUI, we've got Katie and Pete. And then this one, we hadn't, I don't think we've made any
Okay,
recommendations on the council level for who's chairing these.
great. Thanks, Dustin. I remembered I got roped into one tag. It was the IRC. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next thing on the agenda is the legislative sessions outlook. 2020.
Yes, so on that topic, let me kill my share. I don't have anything to share on this one. More of a kind of a concept to keep in mind. We don't have any indication of legislation that's coming down, and I mean there's some indications of what legislation is coming down, but nothing officially delivered down to the SBCC as far as what to expect in the upcoming session or in the 2026 session. The purpose of this one is to kind of talk about planning for those legislative sessions and what we might want to do. So I've been talking with Josh Brown as part of our staff, and he's very familiar with the legislative ongoings, and he is of the mind that in order for us to be ahead of the game on proposing legislation, or I guess first in the history of the council, there has not been any agency proposed legislation made. So we would be embarking on some new territory if we were looking to look forward to make some changes like that. So in order to properly get sponsors and vet the bills and get them ready for the legislative floor, it's been kind of painted by Josh that a 2-year outlook is needed to prep these bills and get them sponsored appropriately and get them ready for the legislative session. So moving forward, I think that we should be meeting right after the legislative session finishes each year to kind of discuss if there's anything we want to move forward in the next 2 years and begin work at that point. I think that it was a little bit of an unfortunate timing, my insertion in the role of managing director, to be right after the legislative session. I was kind of handed a pile of sticks and started picking them up and trying to wrangle things as I could. So we're on our back foot for making changes in the 2025 session, and a little bit of still on our back foot for the 2026 session. As far as things that we have identified as maybe needing some legislative work, we've got some implementation dates in the bills that we discussed at the previous legislative committee meeting that should be updated, and we need those kind of done by the 2026 session to make sure that the implementation date of our codes and the requirements within those bills that passed in the 2024 session align with our process. And so that's, as far as looking forward, that's the only legislative task that I see before us at the moment. Other than what we talked about in the WUI code and maybe suggesting some changes. We haven't talked about actively pursuing legislation in that regard. And if we were looking to do that, I think we would need to develop a little bit more robust schedule and plan for how we're going to undertake that work. And so just moving forward, I just want to put it in the mind of everybody here that if we want to do legislative propositions, there's a little bit more time needed than like, for example, doing a 2025 session bill and starting now in October, 3 months before. So I just wanted to put that in the mind and maybe open it up for a little bit of discussion on does this group have ideas on things that they might want to move forward? Do we want to engage on that? And I guess we'd be looking for council direction to engage there, but do we want to develop a plan as a committee to set up future committees to be successful in making or undertaking that work? And that's my opening on this one.
Well, it seems like this is kind of dovetailing into item number 8 as well,
Yes.
if not fully transitioning into it. And you know, I've thought all along that the council should probably have some sort of a legislative priority list, things that we kind of keep our eyes on. You know, obviously the process things, you know, legislation that interferes with the process that's outlined, you know, either in statute or, you know, in just processes that we've established ourselves, you know, on how things get done and the timing and so on. You know, those are kind of the low-hanging fruit of things we need to, you know, be able to take a look at too. But there's other things, you know, that go on that I think make our work harder than it needs to be. And, you know, and maybe if there's ways that we can have a little bit more early input on some of those issues too. You know, it's been brought up that, you know, one thing that concerns me often is, you know, stepping right into lawsuits, you know, kind of almost knowingly, and some not, but I think we should probably be aware of, you know, how aggressive some of these bills might get and where they put the council and when they put the council at risk. And, you know, maybe we seek, you know, advice from our legal counsel, you know, earlier on certain things before we get, you know, really entangled in, you know, trying to make amendments. And or, you know, if there is a perceived risk, that we can go to, you know, bill sponsors and maybe talk to them and saying, hey, you know, we're gonna end up, you know, we could all end up muddying the waters quite a bit. So I don't know. There's just a bunch of different things that I think that maybe we should start talking about what, what things are, that concern you about being a council member, and how we do our jobs. I mean, it's important. So, Jay?
Tom, you bring up some really big issues, and I think they are valid, but I also think that part of the challenge we've had with legislation is that we haven't had a framework that works for delegating authority to this committee that could keep up with the pace of the legislature versus requiring full council action to be able to get involved. And so what I would end up suggesting is there a way to first start small and say we want to have a set of principles that I think you talked about them, and we've talked about them in the previous discussion on Representative Dewar, to say, can the Building Code Council delegate to this committee taking action and proposing amendments, supporting and opposing bills that, one, make sure that the legislation doesn't provide technical code language and instead provide some legislative direction but allows to work within our process. And secondly, providing direction that we should align any legislative mandates to align with our due dates for existing code adoption. And first start with that, especially for 2025, that would allow us to be effective. There may be some other specific bills or topics we want to talk about. Dustin, you mentioned the dates where previous section, the deadlines are no longer line up with our work. I thought there was a 2025 date that we had to deal with. Are you saying now that these are all things that could be dealt with in the 2026 session?
Well, so in a couple of those bills, the effective date for when they should be effective is July 1, 2026, which prior to the 2024 session, the council voted to extend the implementation date of all codes to November 1, 2026. In the spirit of giving jurisdictions and everybody involved ample time to train on the adopted codes after they've sat through the legislative session. I guess some of the issue there is, during the 2024 session, we were aware of the issue that was coming down, that the dates were not necessarily aligned, and the council sat through that session and didn't make any action to address those issues. And we didn't begin the process to address those issues until essentially now, where we're talking about it. And so if we were looking to have it happen in the 2025 session, it's a heavy lift to make it happen. It's not to say that it can't happen, just that it's a heavy lift, and we've received no direction to do that from the full council. And so we have been having discussions how to make that happen, but we've not made any formal action on that on behalf of the council. So, but as I see it, the legislative session in 2026 will wrap up prior to the due dates that were mentioned in the legislation. And if we kicked the can down the road till the 2026 session, there's the potential that we can get it done that same year, adjust all the dates. But when we're talking about adjusting the dates, it's editorial. It's kind of low-hanging fruit. It should be an easy accomplishment. We're not necessarily changing the intent handed down by the legislature. We're just making sure that the processes align with our processes, and trying to just head off at the pass the issue that might arise from an RCW becoming effective at a date where we're not ready with the codes in time.
Okay. And then secondly, the second small ball thing that I had in my list is we had a significant discussion last code adoption cycle if SBCC was going to publish the full code or just the insert pages. And we had advocates on both sides that wanted both. And what we had heard is that staff didn't have the bandwidth to do both. And I'm wondering, is that something that requires a legislative fix? That might be another small ball item that we want to think about.
So a legislative fix to say we're doing it one way or the other is what you're saying?
Or if it, I don't know if this is a budget item, Dustin, that would require an appropriation that would help solve this problem.
Right. I mean, outside of the appropriation for potentially additional staff, we're still struggling real hard to hire for the spaces we have right now that are funded. And so, you know, as we've got open recruiting going on for code specialists, one thing that I'm trying to find some time to look at is maybe a rewriting of that project or position description, and to make it more attractive to somebody. Like I'm not sure why this isn't going and getting the interest from people to come over and do this. One thing that's kind of a mystery to me is we have plenty of people who are willing to volunteer to do the work as part of our tags, but we have not much interest in folks coming over. And, you know, when the one thing that keeps coming back is the money for the position. You know, we're not offering competitive pay as compared to like California, potentially even Idaho, Oregon for sure. And, you know, so those bodies have more staff there working on the codes, so they're getting paid more and they're ostensibly doing a little bit less since they have less, you know, subject matter to cover as an individual. And so, while more money sounds great for more people, I still have a problem of filling positions that we have right now. So, I think yes, and still a hurdle at that point.
How do you go about establishing your budget ask, and who do you ask it from?
That I am not super well versed in. I'm still kind of coming up to familiarity with that one. But I have some good folks here in DES that would be my source for going to. I would have to go back and ask them before I started to try to speak on that one.
Shell?
Yeah, I guess to the last point, reclassifying positions so that they're higher pay seems very reasonable. I mean, it's absolutely frustrating, I'm sure, for you and as well for council members if we don't have the staff that we're budgeted and expected to have to do all the things we need to do. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe the council should vote on it, or I don't know, somehow maybe we should do something to help you reclassify staff so that it is competitive. If we're paying less than Idaho, where the cost of living in many places, I don't know where the code council is, but is lower than in Washington. I guess I'm surprised by that, and surprised that we think we can hire people if we're not offering the right amount of pay. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll say that, and then I agree with Jay that I think we should empower the legislative committee to do a bit more than is empowered today. In past years, Stoyan would meet with lots of people who were offering bills that affected the legislature and provided advice. I don't know if anyone ever took that advice, or if, to the extent that advice was taken. But certainly, if the legislative committee votes for something, some letter, that would carry more force probably than the director suggesting something change in a bill. So I think if we empower the legislative committee to make those two types of changes, I don't see how I wouldn't imagine the council would have a problem with that. They do need to leave in 6 minutes.
Yep. One idea, I think we could, you know, since we're planning on having a meeting next week, we could table this and still come to the October meeting with some more discussion on this one. But one thing I had maybe floated to Tom was the ability for this group to call special council meetings during the legislative session should something arise that maybe needs the whole council input. That's just one idea I've had on that one as far, but then ability to act for, making sure the process requirements don't interfere with what we've got going on, not necessarily the technical merit of what they're trying to accomplish with the bill. But that's all I have, and it looks like Patrick, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Totally understand that the committee wants some ability to provide feedback on bills regarding technical implementation and feasibility. We just recommend that if you make a request to the council, that it include specific directions that the committee should, or committee members or staff, whatever recommendation you're making, that they testify neutral, provide technical input on the feasibility of whatever bill they're talking about, and that they don't engage on policy issues, which I think I've heard most of the committee members and staff agree with focusing on the technical aspect of bills and staying out of policy issues.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I think in general that's correct. What I haven't heard today is the legislative committee, I think we should have the authority to appoint someone to inform. That's just a different way of saying, neutral, that like any another state agency, somebody needs to be able to inform, to be able to sit into meetings, but more importantly, talk to committee members. I mean, not committee members, the committee staff. That's the part we're missing right now. It's great that we have somebody go up and testify. We need somebody who's talking, having the technical conversations before it even gets to the committee.
Okay.
And then the legislative committee can get together and talk about this openly. And then if anything needs to be pushed up, like we always do, we have the council call meeting.
And in the past, that was Stoyan, right? That kind of
Yeah,
did that.
Stoyan was he was testifying all over the place during the legislative session, with the testimony coming out as neutral, trying to advise on the technical implementation. But I don't think there was any specific direction handed down on that one. And I think that the main goal here is to make sure that we are empowered to do what the council wants us to do for the 2025 session. So if it doesn't get sorted at this October meeting, I'd definitely like to have it sorted by the November meeting. Jay?
And one thing that I want to make sure that's a little of a nuance to what I'm hearing from Todd is that we ran into a problem in a previous session where, because of something where the legislature was dictating specific technical code language or something else that was unrealistic, I don't remember the specific issue, that the SBCC itself voted to oppose a bill. And we heard back from legislators that, wait, this bill's been existing for months. What are you doing coming in the last minute opposing it? And part of the problem was it took us that long to go through our own process, call a special meeting, get a quorum. And so I think on the issues that we're talking about around the legislature specifying specific technical code language or something that is dates that are unrealistic, I want to have this group have the authority to advocate for amendments or oppose a bill in those narrow technical ways, to Patrick's point, not policy issues, but really process issues.
Yeah. I agree.
I agree as well. May I suggest we table this till next meeting, and I'll get this on the agenda for that meeting as well. And so I'll come back to that next meeting with a draft letter. I plan on reaching out to some folks here within the group to talk about the letter, and I guess also the request for authority for this group to act in the 2025 session. That way I can come to next week's meeting a little more with a plan in place for those two things, and then we can bring that to the council for action.
In October.
Yes.
So that potentially someone could inform legislative staff as before bills drop in December, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And are we thinking that it's gonna be somebody from this committee that is that spokesperson, or are we gonna try and task staff with that?
Well,
Kind of
I'm,
thought,
I'm open to testimony, giving in the legislative session. I definitely enjoyed my first exposure to that kind of, interaction by having another, committee member there. So like when I was exposed there with, Representative Dewar and Todd was there, it was a welcome, assistance there. And I think more, I was there to assist Todd than he was there to assist me because he was the primary speaker there. But I think if in the absence of availability, I am willing to go out there and make the testimony with direction from this group and in the sorry.
yeah,
In the interest of this group, try to talk about it, have a position and, specific items to address during testimony. And but I would also welcome other participation as well. That way it not necessarily the appearances that I'm making the decision for the group, but to give more of a what's the word I'm looking for? A unified approach from this group to do the work.
well, Todd presented himself pretty well.
He did.
Years of being a state employee to inform properly. So, but thank you, Tom. But I think to your point, it could be either, but it has to be someone who understands, how to represent a state agency.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe having the two people, a staff and a volunteer.
And Tom, I think in the past we've said the chair of the legislative committee, or maybe the chair of the council, I can't remember, and the executive director or the managing director as a starting point, which then we could appoint somebody else who they're a subject matter expert that's more appropriate.
Sure.
Okay. Well, then I'll be bringing back a couple of these items to next week's meeting, and we can finish that up. I'll schedule it for the 2 to 4 time frame, and probably Friday. I'll be making the calls out to everybody to discuss this one, so I can get it out there and post it a little bit earlier.
Did you have any other items for that agenda that you were thinking of, Dustin, or can we?
If you had
Sure
something
that
you wanted
this
to
issue
add,
comes up early in the agenda so that we get through it.
yeah. So as far as what we have going for that one is just bringing the letter and the request to the council. Those are the only 2 items other than the normal opening agenda items.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps us then, huh?
Yeah. Item number 10 is, well, unless there's any other business.
Nope.
Hearing none, item 10 is adjourned.
All right.
Well done.
Everybody, I
Thank you.
appreciate the
Thank
time
you.
today.
Hasta la vista.
Adios.